And I want to welcome you to another episode of Beyond the Surface Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer, and I'm seated this afternoon in a Panera, of all places, smelling good food, and I'm sitting with Monica Fountain. You're a journalist, an author. What else do you do?
Mother.
Mother, that's a big job.
Yep.
I know that job.
Most important job.
It is the most important job.
And I'm an editor of West Side Press Publishing, which is my husband and I, our publishing company, West Side Press Books. And so that's...
Well, we made a promise that we would get back within a year and discuss C.Deloris Tucker, civil rights activist. She just did so much. Really a leader in the community, a politician, and at the end stages of her life, she was fighting against gangster rap, against it being really sort of just openly pushed through the airwaves and that whole thing. I contacted you because you actually had the opportunity to meet her and talk with her and feel her energy, and so I wanted to revisit our discussion about her. I know that October is her birth month, but it also is her death month, interestingly enough. So since that time, some stuff has happened in the culture, hip-hop culture and American music. And I just wanted to get your reflections on it.
Well, as you said, I did have the distinct privilege and honor of being able to interview C.Deloris Tucker, and this was some years ago when I was actually living in the D.C. area because my husband was was a reporter for the Washington Post, and I was a freelance journalist. And I had left my position as a reporter for the Chicago Tribune, but I was still writing for them. And at that time, they had a section of the newspaper called Woman News. So that was a section that was on Sundays and dedicated to news related to women, obviously. And so that is how I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Tucker. And as you said, at that time, she was in the midst of this fight against the lyrics and some of the things that were happening with gangster rap, but particularly, I want to say, with Tupac.
Yeah, Tupac was...
Because he even, I believe, had her in one of his raps, I think.
He named the song.
Right, he named her, right.
Yeah.
And all of that. And one of the things that I would say, just the general impression of her when meeting her was grace and elegance. And so I guess you might call that grace under fire or grace with power or however you want to do it, but she was a very graceful and elegant woman. She was about business. I asked her in the interview what her typical day was like, and she was like, I'm up at 5 in the morning, getting ready, doing my thing on the phone with Jesse Jackson or whoever I need to talk to. And another thing that stood out to me about that interview with her was she told a story about one of her friends, a white colleague, who had a son, and maybe he was a little boy, 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that, and she was saying about how this young man, because of the images and the words describing women and black women, that he might have called, black women bees or something like that. I might not be exactly right, but whatever it was, it struck me because she was saying that this is the image of us that's being broadcast around the world.
Global. Yeah.
Right. And so...
And that bothered her.
Oh, extremely. And but the thing too that I remember about that interview, it wasn't just that she was about bashing these young men who were making their art or whatever, but she reached out to them as well, she said. And she said they were like, well, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that this is what we do and what they want us to do.
And that's important what you're saying, what we do and what they want us to do.
And she was saying, if they were talking about, say, other women, they wouldn't allow it.
Right.
But yet they, it's okay for them to do it. And so...
And she even challenged, I remember there was an article where it was explained that she asked the music executive at that time, I can't remember his name.
I think she bought even stock in one of the music
Yeah, to
companies,
be on the board.
so she could speak, so she
Right,
could
to
have
influence
a
it.
voice.
Yeah.
Right.
And she asked him to sing the lyrics, and he wouldn't do it.
Right. And it's so funny. It was funny, like I think I mentioned to you when you called me to revisit this, because it's been something really on me, and I had been working on a piece, Dear BET Music Awards, because the last BET Music Awards, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw part of it, and a young man, and I can't think of his name right now. If you said it, I could think of it, but he was singing his song, which I guess is a very popular song, and the words have something to do like, I don't F with you, you little stupid A-B.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very popular song in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is this being featured on an awards program that is supposed to show our accomplishments? And being a journalist and artist, I'm all for free speech and your art and all of that. But at the same
It's so
time,
negative and hostile
at the same
and angry.
time, you know, he had another song, and it was funny because I even posted it on Facebook. He started his set with the song I'm Blessed, and then he went into You Little Stupid A.B. And
Right.
I'm like,
Wow. That's an interesting
That's what I
sentence.
said. Wow.
Yeah.
And so, why is it okay? Even, who else does that?
I don't know if anybody else does it.
I've recently,
Like systematically,
yeah,
I don't.
I was recently too just listening to the Country Music Awards, and just had it on, flipping the channel and start listening. And so I didn't listen to all of it, so I can't say for sure. But I didn't hear one song with them calling women a farming implement or a female dog. You know,
I looked at all of it and it didn't happen.
They might, right. I didn't look at it all, so I can't speak, but I'm pretty sure you say you did, so
I
you
did.
can testify. So they don't do that at the Country Music Awards.
No,
Why do we do it at the BET Awards?
because
and it's
well,
okay.
we have to remember BET is not owned by blacks anymore.
Right, I heard that. But
been sold.
But Deborah Lee is a black woman, and she is the CEO still.
Yeah, but she
of
doesn't
BET.
really have any power. She doesn't. She's just sort of almost a logo for them.
Well,
And she,
then
I mean,
that's unfortunate.
she's
if that's the
regretted
case.
selling it. She says.
That's unfortunate if that is the case, but even still, it would seem like we would have some power. I even thought about that show, you know, as far as art and celebrating black art and all of that. That same year, the Christian rapper Lecrae made history.
Right. But
But
we
they
didn't talk
haven't-
about it hardly any. Yeah, it was almost a
And
whisper.
so why is that? That okay? Here's a young man with a positive message that made history, and we closed the show with somebody talking about trap queens, which I had to look up the lyrics and find out it's about what it was about. And the cipher's about illegal activity and
Yeah.
making drugs and
Yeah.
something that's decimating our communities.
Absolutely.
So why are we celebrating things that we should be ashamed of? Why are we glorifying things that are not edifying?
Well, that's why we're sitting talking, because that was exactly what's happened is what C.Deloris Tucker warned us of.
Right.
The depravity of the mind, the fact that it would take our morals to the lowest level, that it would be a distraction from very important issues. I hate to say it, but she's almost a prophet.
It's like prophetic. And so when you said that and brought it, and I had been dealing with that, I was like, it brought back to my mind, because this was the thing, the very thing that she was
Warned us.
concerned about. And I was like you said, how prophetic, because it's like line by line, that is the way
And it has
it's
gotten
going.
progressively worse.
Yes, but it's
Far
like,
worse than when she was living.
and it's like you say, I hear the saying say, what you do, your children will do to the 10th power.
Wow.
And so and I see that even in Chicago with this violence that is killing our children, where a 9-year-old is executed in his school uniform, a baby,
Right.
still got his baby teeth,
Right.
a child,
Literally. Yes.
yeah, not even in the double digits.
Right.
One horror from another, and I heard that Congressman Rush had went to see some of the leaders, the original
Jeff Ford?
gangsters or whatever, who are now. And I was like,
Larry
they,
Hoover?
they planted those seeds of murder and all of those things. But you never know, when you plant a seed, you plant one seed, you get a whole corn stalk back.
You sure do. You sure do.
And in those corn stalks are more seeds.
which is why she wanted us to be mindful of what we were planting in young people's minds and the molding of their spirits.
And that's what she was concerned about. And I really just admire her, and I just really her strength. And two, just
because she took a beat down. It wasn't
yes.
like, I mean, they've talked a lot about the fact that lots of black men were over this past summer, and now with these cameras and these phones, it's really telling a story that, kind of like what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, white people would think it was ghosts, that we saw ghosts, when in fact now we know it's not ghosts, that these are real incidents.
Right.
We have the proof. But now we've seen that there was a whole slew of women who also suffered the same fate.
Right.
And recently with the young girl that was thrown out of her desk in the classroom,
in South
that's
Carolina.
a whole other topic. There was a bashing of the male teacher, the black male teacher, and they said, "Oh, why didn't that man step up? Why didn't he get involved in that? Why didn't he say anything?"
Right.
And that's kind of systematic for us, that you get black women in trouble, whether they're right or wrong, and that we kind of the men stand on the sidelines. I would still even remember Malcolm X being one of his speeches where he said, there was this black woman older black woman being hit with billy clubs. Like, there was all these full-grown men just standing there. So here we have the same scenario with C.Deloris Tucker. She took a lot of hits,
right?
To have that kind of hateful music written about her. And this is an older woman in the community.
No respect.
No respect. Fought very, very diligent, clean. Wanted the best for us, and she took those blows, and they're still taking them.
And she saw those young men as her sons. And like I said, back to the thing of the things that we used to be ashamed of, now we glorify, and those seeds of disrespect. So like you said, now we go from 0 to 100 real quick, to quote Drake.
Right.
So it's like, so now if you don't respect your elders, and you have no respect for yourself, then of course, then you see how we get to this line to where you could execute a child.
A 9-year-old, literally.
And we have to change
and listen,
that.
and keep it a secret,
right?
Because the executioner is one thing, but the folks who know, see, somebody knows. Everybody knows somebody. It's
they know. Right.
To harbor it.
Yes, and we have to be just as outraged about that as we are outraged about Mike Brown or anything else.
Right.
Because it's our lives.
Right.
And my husband, like you said, he's covered crime for decades now. And he said of all the murders he's ever covered, all the children's funerals he's been to, from Yummy Sandifer, who was 11 years old, to Janila Watkins, who was 6 months old, to him going to Tyshawn Lee's funeral, who was 9 years old yesterday. He said not one of them was killed by a white person or a white cop.
And that's a discussion that we're not trying to have.
Right.
We're having it and we're not having it. There's an artist, what's his name? I can't, you get old, you can't remember everybody. But that's one of his arguments. Part of the reason that he won't stand with the Black Lives Matter is that he says, like, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except that we have not admitted that we don't matter to each other.
And we have to, because, like I said, and the analogy isn't perfect, but I talk about, it's like if you have a aggressive, deadly cancer in your body, and you have an infection.
Right.
Now, will the infection kill you? And is it serious or something you need to take care of?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. But what is more imminently than
the aggressive cancer that can spread to your brain, your heart, your liver, your lungs, your colon.
That you got to really attack. And so, back to C.Deloris Tucker, like I said, she cared about her community. She loved black people.
And she was on the front line. It wasn't just her sitting as an intellectual in a desk.
No, she went about doing something, even if it meant, the young men said, well, we can't help it, the music executives want to do this. Well, she bought stock in the company so she could have a voice and have a say and go to the board meeting and let her concerns be known. And so I think that is really empowering to me, and I think it's inspirational, because I think there's always hope. we can't be hopeless.
Right.
Because if we're hopeless, then what's the use?
Right.
You know, and we have to have a vision, because the word says without a vision the people perish.
Right.
And I think it's so important. I believe that women, like I said, as our roles as mothers, whether you have given birth to a child or not, I still think we inherently have this mothering spirit.
Well, it's called
And
Mother Earth for a reason.
Mothers to our communities, mothers to our neighborhood children, to the schools, and to have a vision, even to mother some of these young mothers who may have lost their way or not have mothering themselves.
And that is something for, at least I know in Christianity, that we're asked to do. The older women should teach the younger women the way.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so that, so there's hope, so that we have vision, like C.Deloris Tucker had a vision, and she was about doing it, whether as far as educating herself, being in the political realm, seeing the issue, and saying...
Tireless. Hitting it from every angle.
And so that's what I really has been my theme that's been resonating with me over the last year, that we are not powerless. Because sometimes when we see all of the things, the lyrics, the execution of a 9-year-old, we feel like we're powerless. And maybe that's why some in the community have not spoken up, because they're afraid, or they feel powerless, or I can't change it anyway, or this is the way it is. But that we are not powerless, that we do have power as women, as a community, as people, to make a difference and make changes in our own circumstances.
Let me ask you, because we're talking about powerlessness, or not having it. There is a hip-hop artist, and I don't know how much you know of him, Bobby Shmurda. But he's a Southern, he's about 21 years old. He's in jail now. Our artist from Chicago was Chief Keef, who was with Interscope Records. So he is similar. I see you know who that is. He's very similar in material and behavior as that gentleman. Okay. Now, Jimmy Iovine, who now is the CEO or whatever of Interscope Records, finally released Chief Keef. They got tired of him. He was gangbanging. He was everything that you could possibly do while you're, with contract. It's just they couldn't even clean it up no more. They finally let it off. Well, Bobby Shmurda didn't get that blessing. Ended up going to jail with a crew of his friends for some drug offenses. I think they were a part of like some break-in crew or whatever. So he's looking at a lot of time. Now, who he directly reported to was L.A. Reid. And L.A. Reid has had a long history in the music industry, as you very well know. Pebbles, Exile, and the whole bit. Okay. Well, they just letting him fly. So he's like 4 or 5 times tried to get released on bail until his trial. Hasn't had a trial. And the last time they denied it. It's what was like, if he had copped for the crime, he would have got 8 years. Now he's looking at 25. And we're talking about 21 years old. And all of his lyrics is all the stuff that we're talking about. Gun clapping, hypersexual behavior, just a lot of random anger, outbursts, just all the stuff. And he had like a little dance he came up with that got popular. And so I'm talking about that in the sense of powerlessness. So he bought into what you said at the beginning. It's what they want us to say. And now the penalties for many of these guys are getting worse. There was a couple of cases in California where they were able to put the gentleman in jail based off of their lyrics.
Oh, wow.
Like they couldn't prove that they did the crime, but they pulled up their lyrics. All of the stuff is on YouTube. It's very, and then that's what they got him in jail for. And when you leave, I know you're a journalist, you'll look it up. I can't tell you the exact cases, but this has become common. So much so that people are beginning to get concerned. They're like, oh my God, like, wait a minute. On one hand, we're talking freedom of speech, and on the other hand, that same freedom is getting a certain group placed literally behind bars. And much of these lyrics, people are there. We've begun to live out the lyrics, but it's a lot of stuff that people sing about that truthfully they haven't done a third of it. And we know that based off of even Beyonce's lyrics, because she has never been, drunk in a club, woke up trying to figure out how she got there. This was a girl that went to private school, came from a 2-parent home, working class
but
parents.
They want to appropriate this narrative.
Yes,
that gives them credibility.
That gives them credibility.
In a certain culture.
So as we're talking about helpless and not being helpless and hope, what are we doing with that? Because it's hard to tell a 21-year-old not to take that amount of money. The money that they're offering, it's not what Motown was offered. If you took all of Motown, it's trumping all of them.
Wow. I don't know if I have the answer to that. I had so many thoughts were going through my mind as you were talking about that. That is interesting because, people say which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
Because, like you said, are they saying what their reality is, or are they contributing to it? And then, like you said, then you have these people who are having, like you said, done a third of those things, but
Not a third.
they want to have that rep or be hard or whatever to give their music legitimacy instead of speaking their truth and being themselves. And I think, but when you say that too partially, some of these older gentlemen, as you said, who have been in the game, I think they need to step up and take responsibility.
Now I have concerns about it.
The Jay-Z's, the Kanye's, the 50 Cents.
The Dr. Dre's, who is really old.
Dr. Dre's,
because I'm 48, he older than me.
Our generation.
Okay.
And who, because it's funny, me and my husband were talking about it the other day, we were laughing, we were talking about how 50 Cent is building a house in Africa or somewhere, and how we saw a special, he went to Africa, and and this goes back to C.Deloris Tucker too, talking about how these images are being spread across the globe, and some of the little African children were asked like, oh, say your lyrics, rap your song, and he wouldn't do it because he was ashamed.
Because here you saying this in the motherland.
And there were children.
Babies.
And he wouldn't, he was like, nah, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to
Because
do it.
have you heard how he feels about his son?
Not having, but
he loves his son.
And then
he crazy about his son.
I think about that too with like now Jay-Z and Kanye who have daughters. So are you going to call your daughters B's? Is your daughter a little stupid A? What I wonder how their paradigm fits with what they're producing with their reality of now you're raising little girls.
I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Umar, but he's real heavy with the he's supposedly the great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, but he's real heavy on the sort of black economic empowerment. I wouldn't say he's a Pan-Africanist, but he got some qualities like that. But one of the things that and I don't like everything that he says, but one of the things that he did make that I had to actually consider, he said that the corporate America realized this era that it made with the black athlete and the black entertainer in the past. The black athlete and the black entertainer in the past still kind of milled in the community. So it wasn't uncommon to run into Ali, to know Eartha Kitt, to be friends with. You understand? Okay, well, they figured out, look, we're paying them a lot of money, but they still can kind of just kick it at the community restaurant. No, okay. What if we give them so much money that we elevate them where they're one of the untouchables, where little old me, I can't talk to Jay-Z. I can't really hold a conversation anymore with Kanye, and so they're in a financial bracket in the world. Even though they're in it, they're not really of it. There's a penalty that comes with that when you disappoint them. That both OJ and Bill Cosby are suffering. They found out you're black. At the end of this, you black. You black, and there's a spanking that you're gonna get when you disappoint. Even though you've done all the stuff that we do, there's a huge, and you're wiped out. It doesn't matter. You're wiped out. Okay. What if we give them so much money where the choices that they make, they're not worried about that paradigm? Because we're so up here, we really just don't see the everyday pain.
And the connection of what I do and the lyrics that I put out and the influence that I have.
Yeah, because
what it has on the ground level.
Most of and I thought back as a kid, I said, yeah, it wasn't uncommon in Detroit because I come from Detroit. Like Motown was there, and it wasn't like every day you saw them, but yeah, you could see them. We knew that Gladys Knight's family. We knew that Aretha lived in. We knew, and people went to church, went to that her father's church, and you know what I'm saying. Like people knew. Like I can't really tell you that even if I just wanted to like love on them, honor them, tell them I'm their greatest fan. I don't know how to reach those people.
I guess Twitter and social media is how you would do it.
But are you really reaching them, or are you reaching a team of people that send stuff out? Yeah, you don't really know anymore.
Yeah, that's
and so when we ask ourselves about, does it bother them? I don't know anymore if it bothers you. If you're at that level, I don't know if you really realize the
have a
effect.
connection, yeah. And when you were talking too, I thought about the fact, and Maya Angelou has said this, and it's a common thing, but that words matter.
Words matter a lot.
Words do matter. What we say, and back to the conversation, like I said, it really disturbed me when I saw the BET Awards and that young man was singing that song, and the audience dealt with me. I'm like, are they listening to the words of what he's saying?
Yeah, but it's feeding that part of their flesh that's negative. I actually don't want to, and I'm like any other person, I get angry and frustrated and, will get in my car or call my husband up and trucking. But I actually don't want to feed on that, that state of mind. Like, I'm not surprised at some of the impulsive, moves that, I'm going to speak as a black woman. Like, when I see black women, how they treat each other, their relationships, their daughters. Like, okay, we just recently had this case with the woman in, I think it's Kentucky, the prostitute stripper, who the school, she was supplying prostitute favors to.
Oh yeah.
Where's that at? Louisville.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was painful about that?
She prostituted her own
daughter.
I saw that clip.
Oh my God.
Dr. Wanda.
Her daughter. But listen, she talked like we're talking here about her.
I was like, does she understand?
No.
That she is prostituted?
No.
They were like 20-year-olds, 20
At the time, they were 18.
And I was like, and she was
19.
saying it like so matter of fact. And she said, my mother asked me if I wanted to make some extra money. And I was like, does she understand?
No.
She prostituted her
You
daughters?
prostituted them and you prostituted with them. And that's some old lyrics.
We have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not responsible, but we have to own our stuff too.
Yeah, we have to own it.
'Cause
that one we have to own.
You can't get better.
But she has a friend, a mother, a cousin. Do you understand? Somebody knows that woman. And she was so relaxed in her thinking. I said, she shared those thoughts. She shared those.
On national TV.
Well, I have to say this. And this was the one thing I did appreciate about her, is the reason she wrote the book, and she kept meticulous notes. She kept really meticulous notes.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to end up the same way.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm a mama too. We had somebody interrupt Miss Fountain's baby, and she had to check on him. No, she kept meticulous notes. She kept a hell of a. Hers was almost like a journalist journal, like a person that travels the world and keeps a vlog.
Yeah.
But what she said was, once they got caught, they started bashing her. And so she felt like, look, let's
protected herself.
She said, let everybody step forward. Let's tell the truth. There were parents I slept with.
Right.
There was, Coach Patino can say like he didn't know.
But he knew
But how
everything.
did you know? And so that was the one part that I did respect about her. I said, there's no loyalty among thieves. And she is stepping forward to let them know there's no loyalty among thieves. You know what we do. You know why we did it.
Yeah. But I saw that too, and it hurt my heart.
Because I don't know any black women like that.
It hurt me.
And she's in our age group. She's just a 40-something-year-old. And I looked at her children. I have children her age. I have daughters literally her age. And then I looked at how casual and comfortable. And I said, what fed that mindset? And I remember a time when you said money. That comes out of that language, right? You'll do anything for money. I'll kill you for money. We got to make this money. And I thought, wow.
It's so rampant. And this conversation is going another way. But if you look at the television shows, you look at Empire and Power.
Absolutely.
They'll do anything for money. They'll kill their family members for money. Mm-hmm. They'll kill their own family.
They just buried an uncle.
For money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I stopped watching Empire. I watched it the end of last season. I watched the first couple episodes this season, and I stopped watching it because I have several reasons, but one of them, one of the storylines, the character Cookie basically pimped the other girl.
Right.
I'm like, does anybody else see this?
Yeah, that lady saw it.
You
Yeah.
pimped her.
Right.
So you're a pimp.
Right.
And you are prostituting yourself.
Right.
And so you will do anything
Right.
for money.
Now, you said it's going off course, but I say it's on course because that's exactly what gangster rap lyrics talk about. That's what that's the core of it. When we think back to rap, when we think about to that Sugar Hill Gang album, when you think back to Grandmaster Flash, Don't Push Me Because I'm Close to the Edge, when you think about the Fat Boys, when you think about Heavy D, when you think about Tribe Called Quest, okay, none of it was conscious rap. And even when it was talking about the elements happening in the community, it was conscious. Like, look, this is what's going on. Be careful. You might not want to make that choice. No. But gangster rap, which was why C.Deloris Tucker was scared.
Thank you.
What it does is it says, actually, there's another world that goes on. And in that world, there are no rules. And yeah, you do pimp your daughters. And you do mess with your son's friends. And you will kill a parent. And yeah, that's what you do in that world.
Because it's all about...
The money trumps everything. And that's what she was ultimately scared of. Now, when she was alive, there was only a little bit of that material out.
Yeah.
We fed on a little, but each year it's gotten more and more and more.
And I don't have it in front of me if I have my phone. When I looked up, because I think the young man Fetty Watt with the thing, Trap Queen was and I'm like, well, what's the Trap Queen? Because I didn't know. And I'm like, I'm reading the lyrics. I'm like, really?
Yeah, really.
Really? So, like you said, and what was that about? It's about the
money.
So, no matter if you're doing something illegal,
it's still about the money.
It's about the money.
It's about the money.
And so that's the problem. But
it's massive because now we're talking about our value system. Which, when I think about good times, the value system was, here you have people that really needed some money.
Yeah.
Every episode, James was trying to find a job because he needed some money. Gloria, Florida was trying to hold it together for some money. Okay, but the value was family. Let's keep our family together. We're going to eat this oatmeal. We're going to have these grits, and we're going to set out.
We had values and standards and boundaries.
And there was a whole bunch of stuff they wouldn't do.
Yes.
Even for the money.
But like
so
you said, but in Empire now with that family, it's about we'll do anything for the empire, for the money.
Corporate America, like what C.Deloris Tucker kept challenging, has picked up Empire. We've had other shows. I mean, it's not like we didn't go through blaxploitation and have films that showed us as pimps and hustlers and pushers. I think about Dolomite, who left this earth with dementia, with his nasty self. But a bunch of his material was just that, okay? But it was adult content material. If you was a kid and you got to see it, that was amazing.
But
anybody can see it. And it was never promoted. Like, the whole time growing up, Millie Jackson was probably the nastiest woman. But they never promoted her. I thought it was interesting that they love Empire. They love it. They love Empire. They love Scandal. They love how to get away with murder. They love it. They love it, and they promote it, and they remind us, and they tell us about the clothes. They tell us about auditions. They tell us about that. And so I see why, because she was working on a whole other level. There's one thing to be sort of a consumer and looking at this, another thing to be sitting at the table with policymakers.
Right.
She knew something. Once again, we get back to considering her prophetic that we just didn't know.
And we have to be that. And I don't know if Deborah Lee is a figurehead or not, but like you said, we have to be at the table. And somebody's saying, this isn't, the only side of us, or this isn't the only
Well, if she's
thing.
not, why didn't she talk about the Million Man March? They got in trouble for that. They got boycotted for that.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, because they ran that special, and it was around the same weekend as the anniversary of the Million Man March. And so there was this huge backlash for it. They said, okay, that's cool, But come on now, you got black men dying. You got black men that they got these child support cases. We had highly profiled domestic violence with black men. We had highly profiled athlete that beat his kid and got punished. You understand? Like, you mean to tell me we finally get? It don't even have to be 1 million. It could be 500 black men marshals. You're not going to mention it. BET didn't. You're not going to really. And so now you got some more stuff to look up. But yeah, there was a huge backlash on the internet, Twitter. Black Twitter blew up, Facebook blew up about how could you not at least mention that?
Right. Back to C.Deloris Tucker again, I think she would cry. Probably if she saw what was happening today, but then I think she'd wipe her tears and get to work.
Get to fight.
And say, we got work to do.
And what is that work?
I saw this about 20 years ago. It was about 20 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's the time it's going, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's the work as we wrap up? Monica, what are we going to do? This is a small contribution, but it is a contribution.
Yes.
I'm always amazed at who knows her, but I'm also very amazed at who doesn't. Like when I bring her name up, for the most part, people have no idea who I'm talking about.
I think doing the work like you're doing as an educator. I think education is key, and education is just key.
Okay.
To anything. I think about, however many years ago, so many people died in car accidents because people didn't buckle their seatbelts. And they had an educational campaign.
And it changed.
And it changed. And with that education campaign, then people changed legislation and people changed their habits and their thoughts about it. And so, like we said, words matter. And I think when you put things out in the atmosphere, it matters. And, I believe in, I'm a Christian, and I believe in God's word. And God said his word would not return to him void, but it would accomplish what he sets out for it to accomplish. And there's power in our tongues. He said life and death is in the power of the tongue.
It most certainly is.
So now, with our tongues, we're speaking so much death. And we're seeing it manifested.
Yeah.
In our children.
Literally.
Because we are literally speaking death. We're in our music, in our television programs, and what we're seeing, what we're saying. And so I think, like I said, with the education, we need to speak life. We need to speak life to our children. We need to keep telling the truth. And like you said, even if, like you said, that was part of our truth, but also having a vision for what we want our truth to be. Whether that's family, community, wholeness, function instead of dysfunction. And that has to start with, like you said, if back 20 years ago, we see the ramifications now.
Oh, we definitely see
what,
it's undeniable.
Of, like you said, how NWA or whatever was treating women, or their lyrics toward women. And so fast forward 20-something years, and now you see
we living
the
them
young
out.
Man, your little stupid A.B., I don't F with him.
Right.
So, but like I said, we have to have hope. If we can change that, we can change that. And I think we get so much hope and strength from our ancestors, as you said, from the C.Deloris Tuckers. Because I was like, what they went through, what we're going through now, is nothing compared to what they went through.
I always feel like it's a drop in the bucket as well, because the mere fact that you're even a journalist.
Right, the racism.
All that.
Like, that I went to what W.E.B. Du Bois had to go through to get his PhD at Harvard or wherever. I'm like, we are standing on their shoulders, and and I said, me and my husband, we were having this discussion the other day when I was telling you about we're not powerless and how much strength I get from our ancestors. I saw a program once, and it was maybe it was from Dusable to Obama,
that was a pretty good. Yeah, that was a pretty good program.
But it was talking about how black pilots, they wouldn't let them go to pilot school, so they became janitors. They were janitors at the school, and they would get the paper and the notes that the students left, and they taught themselves to fly and even built a plane. I said, this is the people I come from. We will find a way, or we'll make a way.
No way.
So we are not powerless. So that's what gives me the strength. When I think of our ancestors, who we were poor and in segregated communities, sure enough poor, and didn't kill each other the way we're killing each other now. When we have so much more materially, even than we had 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
But we've lost so much morally.
Right.
But still have hope because I know this is where we come from. This is the strength that we come from, the strength that survived the Middle Passage, the strength that survived slavery and segregation and Jim Crow and everything else. So if that's the blood that I have flowing through me,
there is hope. Well, we sat down talking about C.Deloris Tucker, looking at the state of music, hip-hop culture. It's got to go all over the map because when you open up that Pandora's box, that's what's in there, right?
Yeah, you're
Porn
right.
and violence and
misogyny,
and that's what's in there. There's no way to avoid it. It's all the stuff that feeds this destruction in the community. So it wouldn't be right if we hadn't touched on all those topics. Okay, so we have to come back again. We have to make a commitment. Next year, somewhere around October, we know that's her birth and death, and we got to keep her name alive. I hate that to me, her name is synonymous with Coretta Scott. I think she should get just that much energy and attention, Betty Shabazz, and to take her. And I almost feel like it's systematic. It's like we're not going to mention her because she was that voice.
Issues that she was talking
and we do
about
have to
that
deal
we're
with these
dealing
issues.
with now.
Yeah, so I thank you so much, Monica,
I've
for sitting
enjoyed
down
it
with
thoroughly.
me.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Beyond the Surface Radio. As you know, we're in Panera, so I apologize for dishes and noise, but it was well worth it to me. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer, and until we meet again, be safe in God's grace.